Okay, so we spent the first 2 episodes of The Rebellion talking about how you're not living in alignment, what you can do to find your purpose, what you can do to take back control of your life, how society conditions women to abandon themselves. But one of the main things that we haven't talked about yet is, what's it all for? Who are you becoming this person for? What are you doing it for? What are you working at taking your life back for? Because if it's so you can work harder, if it's so you can become the most perfect version of yourself, then we've missed the whole fucking point. Because then we've just replaced one form of conditioning with another. But if the answer is so you can experience life, so you can have more time to have freedom, if you can have more joy, more bliss, more play, more pleasure, then now we're talking, because that is the whole point. Because I don't want you to leave this Rebellion series thinking that the goal is to become more productive, more healed, and a more disciplined version of yourself. The whole point of this series is to actually fucking enjoy the life you are living. Yes, you might be living out of alignment. Yes, you might be in the wrong situations right now. And yes, you might have to heal, and you might be more productive, and you might be more successful in the outcome. But the whole point is to enjoy your life. The whole point is to actually wake up and feel happy and proud and blissful about the day that you're going to have. Because your purpose isn't the whole point. Yes, your purpose matters. Yes, alignment matters. And yes, you want to build a life that feels aligned to the person that you know you are. But your life doesn't have to be meaningful every single second of every single day. You don't have to be a productivity robot. You don't have to do everything for an outcome. Not every single way you spend your energy has to have a return on investment. And that is, I think, something that we get so caught up in today's world, that we think that every single thing we have to do has to have an outcome. Every job we have has to be our career for the rest of our life. Every relationship we go into needs to be our partner for life. Every friendship we have has to be one that we're going to have for life. Every move we make has to be the final move, when actually the whole point is just to experience life now. Because when you can master the art of detachment, you understand that nothing is forever anyway. Everything you're going to lose, every single person you love, every single place you've lived in, everything is not yours. Nothing is yours. Everything is going to leave at some point in life. When you can understand that, and when you can really allow that to sink deep into your knowing, you know that every single experience you have is an experience. Every single job you do, every single relationship you have, every single place you visit, every single place you live is an experience. And if you can be in that present moment and have enough pleasure and play and joy and fun and bliss in that moment to allow it to teach you all the lessons you need it to teach you, without putting where is this going to get me in the long run on everything, because not everything has to have a return on investment. Not everything has to be for an end goal. Not everything has to have a purpose in your life. Some of it can just be so you can experience pleasure and play. Because sometimes you might want to do things and they don't have a purpose. Yes, the purpose is to make you happy, but they don't have a purpose to some end goal in your life. Things like swimming, dancing, traveling, eating good food, laughing with your friends, bed rotting, flirting with someone, exploring somewhere new, making something, and being silly. But the thing is that most of the things that we can experience that we don't put a label on, most of these are forms of pleasure, forms of joy, forms of happiness. And as women, we are conditioned to believe that forms of pleasure, joy, and happiness, rest, all these juicy, yummy things deserve some kind of compromise, that we have to earn them, that we don't just get to be happy because we feel like being happy. We have to earn our reason to be happy. We don't get to be loved just for who we are. We have to earn our reason for being loved. We don't get to experience pleasure just because we are a beautiful vessel who gets to experience that emotion and that pleasure in our body. We have to earn it. We don't get to experience rest because we deserve rest and it's our birthright and it's a part of the cycle. We have to earn it. We have to work hard enough to justify that rest. And that feeds very much into what we were talking about last week. Work first, responsibilities first, everyone else first, then you can relax, then you can have fun, then you can have pleasure, then you can enjoy yourself. Nothing else should have to come before these things. And that's the thing, the good girl becomes incredibly good at denying pleasure because she hasn't earned it. Oh, I'll go on that trip when I've saved enough money. I'll wear that when I lose weight. I'll have fun when my anxiety's better. I'll start dating when I feel more confident. I'll enjoy my life when I've figured out my career. How many times have we done that? How many times have we pushed something further and further and further away? Like, I'll wear the really nice perfume when I go out somewhere special. I'll wear the nice underwear when I go on a date. And then how many times has our life just disappeared and we didn't wear the perfume, we didn't wear the underwear, we didn't wear that favourite outfit, we didn't do all these things that bring us pleasure and joy because we didn't think we'd earned them, we didn't think we deserved them because we hadn't got to this point or been given this opportunity that we told ourselves would justify this level of pleasure and joy. And when you actually break it down like that, it's so interesting because we are so far away from pleasure and joy as our birthright. We are so far away from pleasure and joy as just something that we get to experience every day because we're alive. And why the fuck not? Pleasure and joy is something that we should experience every day. It doesn't have to come with a price tag. It doesn't have to be justified. It doesn't have to be in an exchange for anything else. It is just our natural form of being. But the way we are brought up in this society, we think that we have to earn everything. We have to contribute. We have to work. We have to earn our way, earn our keep, earn our place in society, when actually you don't. You just get to be, you get to experience. And this is something that I've come to realize is I spent so long in my early 20s trying to be the good girl that everybody else told me I should be, with the job and the partner and the career and the house and everything that I was told would make me happy. And then I realized that actually I don't want to be all those things. So I went on this journey to try and figure out what I wanted and what was going to make me happy. And I stumbled across this new level of conditioning where you have to be good enough at wellness, you have to be good enough at spirituality, you have to wake up at 5, you have to journal, you have to have the routine, you have to be celibate, you have to save yourself for the special person that's going to come into your life, you have to eat all the list food, you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to be worthy of everything. And then everything fell apart. I lost my cycle, I lost my happiness, I lost my way in life, and I truly hit a new rock bottom that I didn't think was possible. And the one thing that took me there was control. I controlled every single element of my life to the point where I was being perfect on the outside, but it was just a new form of conditioning. And this form of conditioning fucked me up, if not more than the form of conditioning before, because I completely lost myself. I completely lost my sense of joy, my sense of happiness, my sense of pleasure and play and fun and bliss, because I didn't think I deserved it, because I didn't like myself. So I didn't think that if I don't like myself, why would anybody else like me? If I don't feel confident and happy in who I am, then why would anybody else like who I am? If I don't feel like I deserve to have fun and be joyful and have pleasure, then why should I? Why do I deserve those things? And now that I've pulled myself out of it, I can understand how much was on the line, how much I allowed my control to strip back every single piece of this wild-like pleasure that we're supposed to experience in life. And when I say pleasure, I don't just mean like sexual pleasure. I mean everything. Experiencing life through our senses, eating good food and actually tasting it, laughing with friends, swimming in the ocean, walking on the earth bare feet, allowing yourself to sit in the sun and soak up its beautiful rays, sharing moments with people you love, sharing intimate moments with people. There's all different forms of pleasure, and our sense of pleasure and our sense of joy is such a beautiful thing, and it is our birthright. It is our most natural state of being. And the thing is that living this way for a long period of time has a knock-on effect on your life. Because when pleasure and play disappear from our lives, we can become disconnected from ourselves. We lose our sense of self, because pleasure and play are what take us back to our true self. They're what take us back to our inner child. They're what take us back to who we actually are at our core. And when you take those things away, who are you? You are this outer shell that society has conditioned you to be. And it can be numb. It can be a horrible place to exist. It's not something, and it's not a way that anybody should exist. We need this balance of hustle and play, because the thing about play is it gives you information. It tells you, I like this or I don't like this. I want more of this. This makes me feel alive. And when every decision is based on what should I do, We lose access to what do I want? What do I want to do? And this is the problem we've been discussing in the first 2 episodes. What do you want? And if you take away your pleasure and play, you take away your allowance to experience things. You take away your allowance to play. You take away your experience to try things and decide that you do like it or you don't like it. So how are you going to know what you want if you don't have enough play in your life to make the time to try things out? Just because why the fuck not? It doesn't have to have a purpose. It doesn't have to have an outcome. You just have to play with it. And if you don't like it, you move on to something else. You can try this hobby, and if you don't like this hobby, you move on to a new one. You can try this side hustle, and if you like it, maybe it could turn into your full-time career. If you don't like it, you could try something else. It's about play, and play doesn't have to be like, I picture play and I imagine like playing outside in a field like I was a child, and it doesn't have to look like that. It just has to be fuck around and find out, experience things, because the whole point of life is to have fun. And the most spiritual thing you could do is have fun. The most conscious, connected, and freeing thing you can do is have fun. And when you take away pleasure, when you take away play, when you take away happiness, you lose that fun. Because if we've spent our life doing what we should do, we lose touch with what we want. We lose touch with who we are. We lose touch with that sense of fun. And we think that there is no space to fuck around and find out because life is so serious, and life doesn't have to be that fucking serious. Why is it we are all experiencing life in this narrow-minded, almost like we have blinkers on and we can't see the big picture? All we can see is this tiny little box in front of us of how we have to live our life, when actually life is big and bold and bright and beautiful. And we're here to mess up and fuck around and find out. We're here to try something and experience something and go on adventures and be the big, bold, wild, beautiful versions of ourselves we were put here to be. We don't have to keep ourselves in the box that society has told us to be in. We don't have to keep ourselves in this tunnel vision with these blinkers on. You can take them off and you can see the big picture and you can just see where it's going to take you, because the journey will be magical. The journey will be beautiful. It might not be easy, but it will be worth it. And when I say that, fun doesn't have to be irresponsible. Fun doesn't have to be, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to blow all my savings and I'm going to move to Bali. Like, yes, that's what everybody seems to do on Instagram, but that's not the reality for most people. So I'm not saying your responsibilities don't matter. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have goals, and I'm not saying that growth doesn't matter. I'm saying your life needs to contain more sources of pleasure and joy that you are responsible for, that you have brought into your life consciously, not things that just happen because, oh, that happened and you got invited to that place and, oh, that was just something spontaneous that happened. I want you to have more forms of pleasure and joy that you are truly responsible for, that you can consciously pepper into your life so that your life is never dull. You don't lose sense of your pleasure and play, because you can have purpose and pleasure. You can have ambition and play. You can have discipline and spontaneity. You can have growth and rest, and you can have responsibility and freedom. You can have the yin and the yang. Everything has to have a balance. You can't have a dull, grey, mundane life that doesn't bring you any joy, because then you're not going to be happy. No one is going to feel fulfilled and look back on their life when they're lying on their deathbed and know that they really put themselves out there and they did everything they needed to do, if the life that you're living now doesn't bring you joy. The whole point of life is joy. You're not going to die with your 4-bedroom house and your nice car and all the clothes in your wardrobe. All you're going to die with is your sense of self, your sense of respect for yourself and the people in your life, the love you gave and the love you shared, and all of the memories you had, the places you saw, the things you experienced. Everything else is irrelevant. At the end of the day, we're all dust and bone. Like, we're nothing. We are just here to experience life, and as much fun and joy and pleasure and play you can bring into this life, the better your life is going to be. Because if you took away everything you think your life is supposed to look like, what would you actually want your life to feel like? Not what job do you want, what relationship do you want, what house do you want? Instead, ask yourself, how do you want your life to feel? What is your number one value? Is it freedom? Is it adventure? Is it love? Is it happiness? Is it creativeness? Is it sensuality? Is it peaceful? Is it spontaneous? Is it connected? Playful, expansive, wild? Because this is alignment. Figuring out what your value is, what it is that you stand for, what it is that you want out of life will put you in alignment. And understanding that if you value freedom, but you live in a world and you have a job that doesn't allow you to have the freedom you want, are you free? If you value love, but you're in a relationship that you know you don't truly love your partner, do you actually value love? Can you change it so that love does become your main value? If you want to be conscious and your number one value is consciousness, are you living in a way that you go unconscious every single day? Can you bring some practices into your life to bring that consciousness back into your everyday awareness so that you don't go unconscious, so that you actually live in the present moment? If your value is to be wild and to allow this inner wild woman out, can you bring in practices to bring in this wild woman? Can you allow yourself the space to feel her, to be her? It's about understanding what it is we truly value, what it is we want our life to feel like. Because if you can understand what it is you want your life to feel like, and you can bring that into your everyday existence, you will feel more aligned, you will feel more happy, because you've made space for all of these things. And these things also go hand in hand with the pleasure and play. If you find joy and happiness and bliss when you are free, when you are in love, when you are connected, when you are wild, when you are sensual, when you are playful, then all of these things will bring you joy in the long run. Because the thing is as well, is everybody wants to see the whole staircase. Everybody wants to have an idea and see where it's going to take them and see the end goal. But you can't ever see the end goal. You just have to take the first step. Because you don't have to know exactly what your aligned life looks like before you start creating it. And most likely you're not going to know what your life looks like before you start creating it. You just have to take the first step. You just have to understand what it is that you value, what it is that you want to focus on, and then you take the first step. Because the majority of people who are where they want to be and have achieved what they wanted to achieve, 9 times out of 10 didn't do it with the plan they set out with. 9 times out of 10, they went to these events. They put themselves out there. They found themselves in situations where they were called to be in, and then they met somebody along the way who helped them get to where they want to go. They met somebody who brought them an opportunity. They met someone who gave them an experience that led them to where they want to be. Everything will unfold exactly as it's supposed to, but you just have to take the first step. You just have to step on the staircase and allow the rest of the staircase to become relevant. And that's one of the most important things about having a spiritual practice, or not just a spiritual practice, having some practices that you can call on that bring your awareness back into the present moment and allow you to know who you are and trust who you are and lean on your intuition. Because knowing yourself, knowing your intuition and trusting yourself is what is going to help you in the long run. If you come across a situation and you don't know, for example, like me, I had a calling for Australia. I knew I wanted to come to Australia. I didn't really have the funds to make it work. It was a bit of a risk, but I knew I had to be here. I knew I wanted to come. And I trusted my intuition that I was being pulled for a reason. I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going to be here when I got here, but I just knew that I was being pulled to this destination in this way. And I followed it. If I didn't trust my intuition, I might have brushed that aside and thought, no, I'm not going to have the trip because my good girl conditioning has told me that I'm not ready to have the trip, and I will only be able to have the trip when I've saved X, Y, and Z in order to make it feasible. When actually, if you fuck around and find out, and you just take a risk on yourself and you trust your intuition and you lean into it and you flow and you take that first step, the next steps will be revealed. And that's exactly what happened. I took the first step, I moved here, and everything else has fallen into place exactly as it should. And so perfectly that it's worked out even better than I ever imagined it would. Because this is the thing, we have to experiment, we have to try new things, we have to follow our curiosity. You have to notice what lights you up, you have to notice what drains you, and then allow yourself the grace to change your mind. Allow yourself to collect evidence, see what it is you like doing, see what it is you don't like doing, and adjust, and allow yourself to move and flow as you grow. Because the woman I am now is not the woman I was 5 years ago, and the woman that I am now doesn't have the same goals as the woman 5 years ago. The one thing I do have is my value, which is freedom, which has always been my number one value. I want freedom above everything else in my life. And if the life that I'm living doesn't allow me to have freedom, I know that it's not the life for me. So understanding what your value is and understanding that for me, freedom brings me pleasure and joy and happiness, because it allows me to feel most myself. And when I don't have that level of freedom, that's when I feel like I'm being suffocated. Like when I was back in England earlier this year, I didn't have my sense of freedom. So I felt like I was suffocated. I felt disconnected. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter how your life looks. Whether it's you want to change your job, your relationship, where you're living, whatever it is, if you can figure out your value, you can figure out what brings you pleasure and joy, and you can do more of those things, you can focus every day on bringing one thing into your life that brings you closer to that value, it will change your life. Because the more pleasure and joy and fun you can bring into your life, the more you allow yourself and you open yourself up for ease, you open yourself up for new experiences, you open yourself up to discover deeply who you actually are. You allow yourself to know yourself better than you ever thought you could have before. Because the thing is you don't think yourself into knowing yourself. You experience your way into knowing yourself. It's not something that you can logically get yourself to. It's something you have to feel. It's something you have to experience. It's something you have to release control of, and it's something you just have to let flow. So your rebellious act for the Rebellion series, for this episode, is going to be called the aliveness audit. So this is where for the next 7 days, I want you to write down every day in your journal what made me feel alive and what made me feel like I was abandoning myself. At the end of every day, I want you to answer those 2 questions. What made you feel alive and what made you feel like you're abandoning yourself? Because looking back and understanding where it is you choose yourself and where it is you abandon yourself to fit into other people's norms, where it is you can bring pleasure and joy and your aliveness into your life, and where it is you allow yourself to stamp down on your pleasure and joy to fit in. When you can understand those things and you can look back at the end of the week and reflect, that's where you can start to change your life, because you can understand what situations you put yourself in that you abandon yourself. You understand what situations you are in where your pleasure and joy comes second. You can understand what situations you're in that actually aren't truly in alignment with who you want to be and where you want to go. Because you might understand that every time you're with certain people, you feel alive. Every time it gets to Sunday night, you might feel awful because you're dreading going to work tomorrow. You might realize that every time you're outside, you feel amazing. Or every time you swim in the ocean, it makes you feel so grounded and happy and connected. You might realize that you haven't actually done anything creative for months, because when was the last time you played just for the sake of playing? You might realize that you keep saying that you want adventure, but your entire life is scheduled. Your entire life is in a routine. So where is the room for an adventure? Where is the room to be spontaneous when every single part of your life is planned out? Because this is the thing. I'm not teaching you to become somebody else. I'm not encouraging you to become somebody else. I'm encouraging you to get back to the version of you are. The version of you that you always were at your core before society told you who you should be. I'm encouraging you to allow that inner child, that pleasure, that play, that joy, that bliss to come back out, and allow those emotions to fuel your life. Allow those emotions to take control. Allow those emotions to tell you how you should show up, how you should prioritize your time, who you should be with, who you should spend your time with, who you should allow yourself to deplete your energy with. Because time is your greatest asset. Your time is so valuable. And when you understand, are you using your time in ways that bring you pleasure, joy, bliss, happiness? Or are you using your time in ways that society has told you should, ways that make you look like the good girl you are, living the good, serious life you are conditioned to live? Are you allowing your pleasure and your joy to take control? Or are you just doing what everybody else has told you should do? Because life really isn't that serious. You can quit your job at 30 and move to the other side of the world just because you fucking want to. You can end your 10-year marriage just because you realize that you're not in love with your husband just because you want to. You can quit your job that is wildly successful but makes you want to die inside just because you can. You can start a side hustle. You can have a new relationship. You can do all of these things because life isn't that fucking serious. And when you understand that the whole point of life is to experience life, to experience every single one of your emotions, to fuck around, have fun, and play while you're here, life is a beautiful thing because it really, really is not that serious. Because the rebellion isn't about throwing your life away. The rebellion is about taking responsibility for creating a life that you actually want to live. A life that actually sets your soul on fire and makes you want to get up in the morning, that makes you want to go out and experience it. Not something that you dread every single day. Not something that you just get through the weeks to experience freedom at the weekend. I want you to create a life that actually makes you happy, that lights you up inside, and that brings you pleasure and joy and bliss and happiness in every single moment. A life where you have purpose, a life where you feel connected to yourself, a life where you can grow and evolve, but also a life that you can laugh until your stomach hurts, where you do things just because you want to, where you take the trip, where you dance, where you fall in love, where you fall out of love, where you hurt, where you cry, where you laugh, when you try new things, when you change your mind, where you don't spend your entire existence trying to become worthy of enjoying it, where you actually enjoy your life, because taking back your life isn't about choosing a different life. It's about choosing to actually be alive for it. Because if you allow yourself to wait until the perfect moment to live your life, you'll realize that you wasted it and you never actually experienced it. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. Fuck around, have fun, and have a fucking good time while you do it. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If it resonated, make sure to share with all the girls who need to hear this message. Welcome to the Rebellion series journey, where we're going on an adventure to find our purpose, our meaning, to allow ourselves to become the women we know we were put here to be and live the life we know we were put here to live. If you haven't already, make sure to come and follow me on Instagram at I am Isabel Martucci for all things aligning mind, body and spirit and helping you break your good girl conditioning. I will see you again next week for episode 4 of the Rebellion series. Make sure to follow the podcast wherever you are listening or watching so that you never miss an episode. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you again next week. As always, all my love. Mwah.